Good morning, everyone. My name is Raina Ghazi, and I'm the Teacher Development Manager for Macmillan Education International Curriculum. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. Welcome to the first of a series of 4 webinars sponsored by Macmillan Education, Confucius Institute and Oxford Brookes University. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the questions box, particularly if you're having any audio issues. I will try my best to answer. If you can type in English, that would be amazing. My Chinese is somewhat limited, so please do try to write in English. So the first presenter for our session today is Dr. Juju, who I will pass it to now. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first session of the 4-session webinar series. My name is Juju, and I'm from the University of Leeds. From late March, schools and universities across the UK have suspended face-to-face teaching as a measure to slow the COVID-19 outbreak. The quick closure of campuses, or even the sudden closure of campuses, have necessitated the virtual delivery of vast numbers of classes. Before the outbreak, for decades, we had been talking about a digital future for education, and according to Times Higher Education, it was expected that the established prestigious universities would start to offer 4 degrees online from 2030. It seems that the COVID-19 outbreak has enforced the pace to switch online. Now we're all working remotely with our students, and the environment for education has inevitably changed. And campuses will reopen at some point, face-to-face teaching will resume. However, the experience that we have all have for distance teaching and learning will inevitably have a huge impact on how the classes will be designed, offered, and delivered in the future. What will all this mean for the Chinese language teaching? We will have more exploration on blended teaching, on multimodal learning, but what would this all mean exactly for the teaching and learning of the Chinese language? Let's explore together. Like I said just now, it seems that we have been forced or enforced into online teaching very quickly following the outbreak. And the first question we may ask us is, what exactly has been moved online? And I would use the tip of the iceberg as a metaphor. When we ask ourselves this question, the very obvious answers would include class materials, they're all online now for our students, our delivery method. We may record our voices, we may record various types of clips of our students, we may do live delivery online like what we're doing now, and we may offer assessment online as well. But that seems to be the tip of the iceberg that we can see. And deep underwater in the ocean, more profoundly, what we have moved online also include community building. When we talk about teaching online, very often people express concerns about the loss of community, sense of community, the loss of interaction. But to offer a successful course, we must focus on community building, among other things. And we will look into helping students resolve various problems. And like always, we will encourage dialogue between students between teachers and students, between teachers, students, and a wider community, and generate ideas. And we will also encourage students to make their own discovery. And there will be other things we will consider as well. For example, pastoral care for our students. You see, on the surface, we seem to have moved something online, but more profoundly, we need to think of more factors, more aspects, how we should do and how we should endeavor to do to make our online teaching successful. And the second question, following us all quickly moving online, may be, what are the challenges for teachers? It felt like that we moved online overnight, and of course we encountered and also at the same time resolved a lot of problems and challenges. On the surface, it may be about our IT skills. Some of us were worried that we are not very advanced at IT skills, and that's one of the worries. And some of us worried that we will have to spend a lot of time and we have to manage our time well because we are working from home. There are bound to be factors that we would not consider when we were working in classrooms. And there are various practicalities that we have to take into consideration, childcare, for example. And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. When we talk about the challenges, we also need to think of more profound factors. Students' motivation. How do we motivate our students remotely? How do we achieve effective communication with our students? To take Chinese language learning as an example, we all know that it's very easy to lose students at the beginner's level. And motivation and communication are most important at this stage. But how do we achieve that? And how do we achieve intended outcomes that we wrote for ourselves and our students when we didn't move online? And when we put everything together, really, we are putting education, we are putting teaching and learning in a new light. This will help us to understand teaching and learning in a different way. And yes, we have talked about changes. Changes do bring challenges, but at the same time, they bring opportunities as well. So we will be looking at challenges and opportunities for Chinese language teaching and learning. And my colleagues and I will, over the 4 webinar sessions, talking about various topics related to the teaching and learning of Chinese language. We will touch upon theoretically issues that we should all consider in the settings of education. And more specifically, each of us will be focusing on one aspect of the Chinese language teaching and learning. I will be focusing on Chinese grammar and how to encourage students to apply what they have learned in classrooms in real life. And Zhou Laoshi will be looking into teaching pinyin and Chinese characters online. Luan Laoshi will be looking into designing for online listening and oral language teaching. And Xuan Laoshi will take us through reading and writing considerations when we teach these skills online. And here is the program for our 4-session webinar series. And please have a look at the second and the third one. And we're going to have a focus on Discover China for these 2 sessions, and we're going to use Discover China as materials that we will use to demonstrate to you what we think to be good practice to teach online. And our 4th webinar will be a Q&A session under 4 categories. And here on your screen, you will see a code, and you can scan that code to access a question pool. And I would very much welcome you to put in whatever questions and thoughts that you may have about different aspects and various aspects of teaching and learning of Chinese there in the pool. And we're going to collect the questions and try to discuss with you and answer your queries in our 4th session, which will take place on the 25th of June. And just now, I talked about that we felt that we were enforced into teaching online almost overnight. And what we should consider now is not just to get by this period of time, but really to think how we should, what kind of integrated approach we should take to offer online teaching and learning in the future. Hence my title, From Enforced Teaching Online to Integrated Online Teaching and Learning. Some people have already started to wonder whether the future have actually become reality already, because it seems that we're all teaching online. But like I said, campuses will reopen and face-to-face teaching will resume. And what kind of thoughts, what kind of practice that we should take into future educational practice, that's something that we should really consider at the moment. Right. If we are in an ideal world, and if I ask you to think of the factors that you want to take into consideration when designing an online course, what factors will you take into consideration? I'm sure you will take into consideration a lot of factors, and here I would like to highlight 2. Even if we're in a world that is not perfect, that is not the ideal world, we still take these 2 factors into consideration when designing an online course if we want it to be very efficient. First of all, the course must be socially driven. Secondly, the class must be easy to flip. Like I said just now, when we talk about online teaching, very often we're worried about the loss of sense of community and the interactive opportunities. If we design a course and it's socially driven, we will find ways to motivate and engage our learners. And when it is easy to flip, yes, an online class can be a flipped class as well. Because very often when we talk about a flipped class, we were talking about working online before physical classes or after physical classes. But now, if we're doing everything online, we can still flip our classrooms. But what should we do? And what's the merit of doing it? The merit of doing it is that it can enhance communication dynamics and, very importantly, nurture autonomous learning. We can't stress it more, especially when it comes to language learning. It's a lifelong learning. Students will still continue to learn if you want to achieve very high opportunities after they have left our classrooms. So autonomous learning is very, very important. And if now we can say that we have a new present, because it seems that we are doing everything online, which was the dream a number of years ago about the future. Since we have a new present, we will have a new future. And our future will be built on the strong points that we have achieved now. So maybe I'm just thinking that for future, we will be looking at multi-dimensional engagement in learning. And I would like to discuss my thoughts from the aspect of teaching Chinese grammar. And I would like to explore what we should do before, during, and after flipped grammar class. And how do we engage, motivate, and support our students? These are the two key questions that I would like to answer in my next session, which will take place on the 11th of June. And I will use Discover China as materials to demonstrate my thoughts. And Macmillan Education will make the digital version of Discover China books available to you in the next few days. So please try to use these materials, and our discuss sessions in the following seminar sessions will be more engaging and fruitful. So I will see you again on the 11th of June, talking about how to teach Chinese grammar in this new environment. And I would like to remind everyone that we have created the question pool, and it will be closed on the 23rd of June. And we look forward to seeing lots and lots of questions from you. And I will thank you for listening to my session. And I would like to introduce the next speaker, my colleague Zhou Laoshi, who is going to talk about principles of Chinese language teaching and learning in this changing environment. Now the floor is yours, Zhou Laoshi.
Thank you, Zhou Laoshi. And I'm sending my greeting to everyone from London. And I saw we have about 300, more than 300 audience here with us. And thank you all for participating in today's webinar. And a moment ago, Zhou Laoshi talked a lot about the current situation, and also she talked a lot about for the future, how we plan our online session with face-to-face session. So now I want to ask you a question before start my presentation. I like Zhou Laoshi mentioned, I think more or less most of us might have been engaged in the online teaching recently or even before. Now I'm asking you, please click the GoToWebinar, this app, and you will see there's a question box. And could you please use no more than 3 words to describe your feeling about your online teaching experience? And please, no matter which subject you teach and you know what kind of format you experienced, just share your experience with us, your feeling with us. Please use no more than 3 words to describe your feeling, just as the keywords like exciting, or I don't know, challenging, or time consuming, I don't know, but please share your, because we want to hear more voices from you all, please. I haven't seen any questions, sorry, I didn't see any replies from audience. Roina, may I ask, have you seen any feedback from our audience, please?
Yes, there are many actually. So let's have a look.
Okay, it's a chance you can share because I can't see it, unfortunately.
No problem.
Because it's quite a
problem.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if you'll like some of the answers. Worried, confused, exhausted, fine, challenging, exciting, engaging, So boring? Oh, that's not
Okay.
so good, but there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, later on we will be able to see them definitely. Thank you all for sharing your feeling with us. More or less, to be honest, I think we all of us, we had, like Zhu Laoshi mentioned, we have been enforced to move to online. Although we hope it's for a long time, but we have been enforced in a very short period of notice. So thank you for sharing your thoughts with your feelings with us. And I prepared kind of 3 statements regarding the understanding for current online teaching, this concept. So I want to share the 3 statements, and you choose one of them you most agree, please. Okay, you just choose one from them and simply type your answer in the question box 1, 2, 3. Okay, so number 1, it is online teaching is to duplicate our classroom teaching, face-to-face teaching virtually. Simply you just copy, repeat the same things online. Okay, number 2, online teaching is to develop an online module. Number 3, online teaching is using online tools or technology to support our teaching. So which statement you agree the most? Please choose one answer, please, and share with us. Of course, I can't say it. If you don't mind, Rowan, I'm sorry to bother you again.
It's okay, no problem.
Share with me, yeah.
Thank you. We have a lot of 3s and a lot of 2s, 2 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah, majority 3 and 2.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So it is quite clear. I think I don't know whether I can see we all agree or not, but majority of us we know it is not so simply you copy your face-to-face teaching materials or activities, simply move them to online. It's not so easy. Obviously, to be honest, when we talk about teaching online, we need to know certain technologies, the tools, the platforms. On the outside, like Zhu Laoshi mentioned a moment ago, a lot of pedagogical aspects we have to think about. So, and what I want to say is what we experienced in past a few weeks is more or less like emergency remote teaching. What we need to do is simply you need to just move everything online, okay? And I think I still remember the nerves I experienced when I just started online teaching with very short notice and the situation, and also with very little knowledge, I have to confess, to be honest. On the other side, and a moment ago, some of you choose online statement. It is like develop online modules. I want to share my thoughts with you. In my opinion, I think currently our online teaching, we hardly can say it's like the proper, well-prepared online modules. The reason it is usually for the online module, from preparations to development until the course delivery, for college at university levels, for the course, at least take about 6 to 9 months in generally speaking. And obviously we don't have that such a kind of preparation time for us to be able to develop such well-prepared modules. On the other side, I think when we prepare this kind of online modules, require a lot of the support, technical support, okay? The expertise, professional support, or the content development and the technique things. So at the moment in this lockdown period, everybody we stuck at home, and all the help we received is like the virtual help. I think, to be honest, it's hardly for us to say we can develop a proper, well-prepared online modules. So what I'm talking, so I think we are on the way. I think we have to acknowledge, or we have to agree. It is come out. It is we do our best to deliver our online teachings, and it is we need to recognize. When we talk about current online teaching, we have to keep we have to have kind of very positive attitude. It is we are doing our best to deliver, and we try to take the essentials with us to deliver our lessons. So positive attitude, be open, and we need to acknowledge something we cannot do. That's fun, okay? So we should ask more often ourselves. A moment some of you share your feelings, exhausted, tired, worried, etc. I think now we need to ask us more often one more question. It is what we can do online, but we cannot do in classroom. If you think in this way, probably you can figure out more like flexibility, particularly from the online sessions, or encourage students independent learning, etc. So anyway, what I want also, to be honest, if you think about this, our learners, okay, so they are kind of the young generation, majority they are young generation, they are keen, they are willing to be engaged online, okay, use all these kind of online tools. So So be open, be relaxed, okay? And you need to be able to express your feeling in front of your students particularly, okay? And also I think in my experience, sometimes students, they are willing to offer their help to us, okay, to explain certain features, etc. So in one word, what I want to say is, at this current situation, we have to acknowledge that we don't need to be expertise on everything. We do our best, okay? If you think about it in this way, I think probably it is much better. We can more positively to engage in this online session, okay? Another thing is what I want to say when we talk about online teaching, technical aspects, okay? So platform, like now it's very popular platform like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Classroom, etc. Also online tools like how to use online chat rooms, how to use break room, etc. All these kind of tools, how to use recording, etc. All these kind of things we need to be familiar. So what I want to say is, in the following a few sessions, we 4 colleagues, we will work together as a team to share our online resources or tools from these aspects of the Chinese language teaching with you all. But apart from this, what I want to emphasize, it is for online teachings in general, there's kind of broader principles that can be applied to the online teachings. And this is why today I'm here. I want to share my thoughts regarding the general rules or the principles about online teaching with you all. And now I want to share them with you point by point. Okay. So a moment ago, Zhu Laoshi mentioned about the context already. So I think it's quite important when we talk about current online teaching, we need to put it in the context. Particularly now, if we think about the context of uncertainties, ambiguities of COVID-19, and also think about student anxieties, and also for us, for each institution, no matter you are teaching at schools level or university, etc. I think schools are and the university, we are facing a lot of challenges as well, like the well-being, health issues of staff and students, and on the other, in the coming academic year, students admission, and this is another challenge we are facing. And also, to be honest, I have to say, the current pandemic definitely has bring a kind of long-term impact on our education system. So, and also, of course, our institutions has been, have a lot of regulations or policies to respond to these kinds of challenges. So when we think about plan our online sessions, it's quite important. We need to put our teachings, our sessions in this kind of context. So when we talk about when we plan and design our online sessions, I think it is quite important. A moment ago, we talk about it is what we can do online, but we cannot do in the classroom. But now, I think when you think about another thing is, what's the limit of online session? What we cannot do in the online session? So, for example, can we expect a similar outcome from online session as what we delivered in the classroom? Okay, and when we review our current course syllabus based on classroom teaching, which part we should amend, okay, and which tools or technically it is which tools or platform we can use, and also what kind of our instructional approach, what kind of challenge we are facing, we have to, when any changes have to take place. So many things we have to consider, from course design to kind of the homework events or content delivery, or even the technology selections. So what I know, we have so many questions in our mind. Okay, we are puzzled. So what I want to say is, I want to share my experience and my thoughts with you all. So I think, in general speaking, when we plan our online sessions, in general, I think the size, if you look at the size of each group, should be smaller than our classroom teaching, more or less. The reason behind, particularly for the new group, we need students, they need a lot of the feedback from teacher side and also students, they need to work together to build this kind of bonding together. So in general speaking, I think when we talk about the online teaching, the size group should be smaller than the classroom-based teaching group. Also, I think it is when we deliver the online session, we should not be too ambitious. Okay. A moment ago, thank you, Lorna. You remind me to speak slowly. I apologize. Always in my lesson, I always talk too fast. And of course, here, when we do online, we need to be aware. We shouldn't be too ambitious, and we need to give students a kind of time to let them to reflect, to respond your questions, and give them time, give them space to perform. Okay, and no rush to move to next section. Also, another thing it is, I think when we plan usually our language sessions, it's quite important, student participation. Okay, they need to be part of this session. But when we design for online sessions, particularly when we use the small group activity, etc. So usually, I think no more than 3 students. Mainly, it is we want everybody to be involved virtually, and also teachers, it's better for teachers to give feedback, personalized feedback to each student. It's quite important. Okay, and also regarding the frequency of group activities or the pair work, probably comparing your classroom teaching, I think maybe slightly less is better. The reason it is time consuming when we switch between the group activities to the whole group explanation or instruction. So it takes time, and also students probably, if you want to let them to be engaged, you need to bring their attention to your session. So be aware about the frequency you are using about the pair work or group work. Okay. Another thing I want to emphasize, it is regarding when you plan your session, be aware comparing face-to-face, because to be honest, in a language class, particularly, so we can easily give feedback to students spontaneously, immediately. Okay. But when we do online session, students probably comparing what's the experience in the face-to-face classes, they have less this kind of feedback from teacher side. So in this case, students expect more homework from your side. And in that case, you can give individual feedback based on their performance after session. So this my experience, which we want to share with you all when you plan or design your sessions. So in practice, when we start to delivering sessions, it's quite important. Think about, you need to provide very clear instruction to our students. Okay, particularly when we move to online modules, I have to say we need to be aware the burden of keeping communication with students has to be taken by our teachers, by us. Okay, and particularly at the beginning of the new class. Okay, it's quite important you set you pass on very clear information to students. For example, like the timeline of their assignment, what's the deadline for homework or the coursework. Okay, and also, for example, what's your available time for the office hour, the virtual office hour, and also like how long is it they expect to get your response, email response, etc. And also, is there any other alternative resources you can use apart from your lesson? For example, maybe language partners, practice, or any other the PA work, etc. And also, equipment is another thing we need to think about it, or what we expect students to have before they come to our virtual classroom. And also, do they know all the features about the platform? Do they know how to use it, how to respond to your questions? Okay, and also think about it. Do they have all the access to the online sources? Okay, so these things we should consider. And particularly when we ask students to do a lot of like forum discussion or group discussion, etc. I think it's quite important. We need to remind students the ethic they need to be aware, particularly in the group discussion. The general rule, it is quite important. It is thinking before posting. Okay, thinking carefully. Okay, and respect others' opinions, etc. One more thing I want to emphasize, it is in the classroom. We found if you want to motivate your student to be engaged in the session, it's quite important. If the internet allow, okay, everybody should turn on their camera. Particularly a teacher, we need to turn on our cameras so students they can see your body languages, your expressions, etc. So because this it's not it's from what we heard from student sides, they want teacher to turn on their camera to feel their part, to be motivated when they stay in the session. Okay, Another thing, it is quite important things. I think it is like the internet security settings, particularly like Zoom, this platform we are using. I think some of you might heard the news, like Zoom bombs, etc. So it is quite important, whether students know how to set their media's, the media's securities, the settings, etc. And particularly, I want to remind you all, if you are teaching the students under the age group under 18, in the group discussion or whatever, we need to monitor closely about their pair work or the group discussion in the session. You need to make sure you have access to check their content, their discussion at any moment. You need to inform them in advance. Of course, I think each institutions or organizations, we have kind of regulation regarding the internet security setting, etc. So I think I just want to remind you all about this. Okay. Apart from this, I think in the session time, when we deliver our sessions, I think it's quite important we should combine the synchronized teaching and asynchronized teachings together. So anyway, synchronization in a word, it's like live online sessions. It's like what we are doing now. Okay, so the teacher's role, more or less, is quite similar as what we do in the classroom. Okay, and teachers, we can easily share our resources by shared screen, like what I'm doing now. Also, we can demonstrate some things on the whiteboard when we use the Microsoft Teams or Zooms. They have whiteboard this function. Yeah, for example, when we teach Chinese characters, we can simply use this kind of whiteboard to show them the script order, etc. So also in the online sessions, students, they communicate each other. They can do through the group chat. It's like they can do like breakout rooms to do the pair work, etc. On the other hand, I think there are many. This one says there's kind of many interactive tools like Kahoot, Quizlet. So these tools we can use in the classroom, but I think these tools is very helpful for offline activities. Students, they can still repeat the same practice at their own time. Okay, they can repeat the same this kind of practice. Apart from this, we can also create a lot of video clips or audio clips, these kind of things, to offer to students after their lecture time. So because mainly it is for the synchronized teachings, more or less fundamental that limit we can do. For example, when we teach Chinese characters, this is what I'm going to mention later on in the next session. So we can demonstrate our writing to students and how we can check students' writing. It's in the classroom, it's super easy. You can spot immediately, their errors if there's any mistake. But for us, in the when we do online session, what we can do. So in this case, I think offline teaching is or offline start learnings like synchronized teaching is quite important. So teacher can create their own resources, such as what I said, video clips, audio clips, or even online quizzes, and so students, they can work on their own pace at their own time. Okay, so in general, the rule of creating this kind of resources, I think it is keep it simple. Okay, shorter, the length is shorter, and straightforward to the point. Okay, and also next session, in the next session, I'm going to share some tools or resources regarding Chinese characters and pinyin teaching and learning with you all. Also, when we give feedback, for example, if we organize like a forum or online discussion, when we give the feedback, I think it's quite important to personalize feedback to each learner. It's quite important. We need to be aware about this. And also, when we teachers, I can think it is a shorter visit, but a more frequent visit also will be very helpful to let students to get your feedback as soon as possible. So anyway, I think a moment ago, Zhu Laoshi also mentioned, I think we have to combine this kind of two teaching, let's say this main categories together. We take to make the best use of these two main categories and combine them together as one into a single experience for our learners. Okay, so this is about the main two types of the teaching activities. So the teaching categories. So another thing is about assessment. I want to share my thoughts. We need to think about, review our current assessment to design a proper assessment and provide effective feedback. Okay, so so I think it's quite important, no matter which kind of teaching we want methods we want to use. It's quite important. I think it's quite important that teaching students, they need to self-reflection on their studies, and considering also we need to consider the feedback as a kind of dialogue process to support students to engage meaningfully with the quality of their work. And also we need to think about how to use feedback to help students to communicate in Chinese better. And we more or less we should avoid the kind of the fact test assessment. Okay. Of course, I think later on when we have time to talk about this in the following sessions. And finally, it's quite important, among the George also mentioned, I think community is so important. We have to develop and maintain the kind of supportive community with our learners, and also among students, and for us as a teacher as well. So it's quite important. I want to say it is effectiveness of online teachings. We are not determined by the quality of your videos or your content. As also, it is come from the strength of the communications emerging from the outside. Okay, so it's like the bondings between us and also between us with our students. I think the community is quite important. So this is why I think I nearly come to the end of my presentation. I want to say this is why I really appreciate Macmillan Publisher and also Confucius Institute at Oxford Brookes University organize this kind of webinar for us to meet together online. And I'm looking forward to hearing some more feedback from your side, and we can share, to learn together, share our practice together. Okay, this reference, you will receive this PowerPoint later on. If you want, you can read by yourself regarding the principles of online teaching. And also in the following sessions, my session, we will talk a bit more about how to use Discover China as kind of a case study to talk about how to teach pinyin and characters online. And again, I don't need to repeat here. You can put your question here. Okay, now I'm going to move to our next presenters. Luan Laoshi, okay, Dr. Luan Duo from Edinburgh University. Okay, yeah, Luan Laoshi, it's your turn now. Okay, thank you.
Hello, yes, can you hear me? Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Luan Duo. I'm currently working at the University of Edinburgh as the Chinese Language Program Director. It's my pleasure today to meet you all virtually through the event organized by Macmillan Education and the Confucius Institute at Oxford Brookes University. As you can see from the slide, my topic today is pedagogy go first, the use of technology for remote learning. As my session is only 13 minutes long, so you could see that I have a stopwatch with me to make sure I don't take other speakers' times away, which is often happens to an online meeting or class. We found that it's very hard to control our time. So the first tip from me today is to control your time for your online teaching. And we come to the next slide. In the next slide, you can see on the left-hand side is my picture, on the right-hand side is the session outline of today. The reason for doing that, which is the second tip from me, is to make a teacher invisible. So a nice and happy picture from you will help students ease their anxiety, and knowing his and her teacher is especially when they are doing offline learning or asynchronous learning. Or sometimes our broadband just not good enough that we have to turn off our video. At this time, a nice picture will help greatly. On the left-hand side is my session outline. For remote learning, showing the light at the end of the tunnel is always important. So you will indicate it. to your students what they expect to achieve at the end of your lesson. So after my session, I hope you understand the different method or concept for remote teaching, and considering why we want to apply digital resources or tools to our alternative teaching. Well, under the COVID-19, I think the reason is obvious. We have to, and how and why we have to use some particular online tool or tools may need our second thought. Then I will share some useful tools of a platform for remote teaching with you. By the end of the session, I hope that you will feel more confident in considering alternative remote teaching approaches. But before we are stepping into remote teaching, or you have already done, I think it's very important for us to clarify the different online teaching method or styles. During the time, I will mention three concepts which I think they are more relevant to us. The first one is online teaching. What is online teaching? Online teaching is an approach where all materials and the students' activities are web-based. Online teaching doesn't mean teaching online. There are two different concepts. Online teaching is the way we design a course for the purpose of delivering it online. For example, the online course taught by the Open University or MOOC. So let us think, is what we're doing now an online course? The answer probably is not. The second one is blended approach. In my opinion, it is what we are doing at the moment. We still follow the traditional or conventional structure, curricula, or learning outcomes we set up before, but we have to move some of our teaching online due to the COVID-19. Hybrid teaching doesn't separate online and on-campus cohorts and focus on bringing them together. So we are teaching some elements online as well as in class. This approach is more likely taken when the lockdown ends or when the social distancing applies, which is allowed our students go back to campus or schools. The other three terms I would like to introduce at the first, then when we will run some courses online, then we'll face the different teaching style, which are synchronized and synchronized. Often the first impression from our teacher with regard to teaching online is to do everything online, face-to-face teaching. However, do we really need to teach students the same way we do in the traditional way? I would like to say that a traditional 2-hour in-class teaching doesn't mean 2-hour teaching online. Sometimes we recommend that 50 minutes or hour teaching is maximum. Any lecture or lesson is over 1 hour, students' attention or tendency drops. Also, another important fact we bring impact to our online lesson is the IT issues. I have a brilliant broadband, but doesn't mean everyone has the equal facilities, or some of our students may not have an advanced digital skill. Now I will show you a chart from Stanford. With regard to delivering a course on the basis of bandwidth and the interaction level, if you have a high broadband and internet that you would like to do a deep interaction with your students, as shown in the right section, you could do a video conference like today's event, or using such as Blackboard collaboration or Microsoft Teams or Zoom Actual. If students have a low speed broadband, but you would like to do an interactive lesson anyway, you could use group chat or messaging such as WeChat, enclosed Facebook chat, or collaborate documents such as OneNote. It's very good. And you can use shared Word document which allows your students and you work online and together. In the yellow section, you can see when the students and you have a high-speed broadband and you would prefer to do a lower level of interaction, you could use pre-recorded video or a synchronized discussion with video. I will go a bit further in my next session where I will introduce you some program to help you achieve the synchronized discussion via video thread. The worst scenario probably is some students or teacher have a low broadband, or you probably just prefer a low level of interaction due to some reason, like not available on a certain time, or you work a lot, then you could provide some reading materials or setting up a discussion board with some text or images or simple email will do the job. In the end, you don't need to stick on one of this. So I just stick in this yellow session. No, you don't need to do that. Actually, you could combine some of them together to create a class, to create a lesson. For example, in one of my language courses, I use pre-recorded video, gave a lecture to the grammar lesson or textbook study. I then use a discussion board to set up a task for students, using Microsoft collaboration to have an oral tutorial lesson. For my reading and composition lesson, I upload my reading materials before the lesson and using collaborated document to complete writing task with the students together. So there are so many creative ways you could do to deliver your lesson. Now, I have mentioned in my previous slide that for a synchronized face-to-face lesson, hour-long lesson sometimes is the best. How about pre-recorded video lesson? I often see many teachers record very lengthy lesson, over half hour or even 1 hour long. Now, I want to show you a chart in this slide. Google has done an initial research about the students' engagement with streaming videos and found out that the length of a video has a close relation with the student engagement. The video is under 3 or 3 to 6 minutes at the best length. The longer your video is, the lower engagement our students become. That probably explain why nowadays the TikTok is so popular among the young kids. Okay, so now shall we do an interactive game together? It must be very tiring of being an audience, right? Look at this slide. Here are 6 online teaching platforms. Could you tell me how many platforms you recognize? Just have a look. Okay, there's 6 of them. How many you recognize? And shall we do a game? There. Okay, so because I can see I have 311 attendees join this session, but I can't see you. Now I come to 310 now. I can't see you. So would you like we together do an interactive game? Could you use your web or mobile phone, any device? You can type this one in Paul, aev.com/duoluan629 and you vote. We just come to this point. Yes, 6 online platform. How many do you recognize? And you can vote. Don't do the text. Okay, you just tap this website in and you can choose if I recognize 1 to 2 or I recognize 3 to 4 or I recognize all of them. So could you do the game? Oh, great. I have a lot of vote in. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, I need the. Okay, it's great. Oh, yes, keep growing. Lovely. All right. Oh, quite a lot of teacher knows 1 to 2. Yes. Because of time, shall we pause here? Thank you very much for your contribution. It's great fun having interacted with you together. So the time for our result is, the first one is Blackboard, Moodle, Adobe, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams. I didn't put that one down. That's very simple. It's already write down the name with IQ. Those 6 online teaching platforms are commonly used. Of course, you might use, and you may already know some others. Here I only list the 6 down. Here I would like to highlight that most of the time, it's not us who decided which online teaching platform we use. Often it's our university, college, and the school has. In my previous university, we use Moodle, and the current, my workplace, University of Edinburgh, we use Blackboard. And some school, you may choose Microsoft Teams. They're all institution licensed, so you will find a lot of activities through this platform. However, if your institute doesn't provide one to you, you have to choose one. I think sometimes Google Classroom is a very good option. All right, so, well, from the game we just did, thank you so much for your contribution. But we also recognize a hard lesson is we can't expect, okay, we can't set up expectation that the students will or able to participate synchronously. Some of you vote, some may not. So when we design a lesson, we have to consider a very important fact of student engagement, how to deliver student-central learning style. This means to consider equality, diversity, and inclusion. If students can't join in the synchronized lesson, recording your lesson, make it available to your students is necessary. Ensuring students in an inclusive, respectful, confidential space. For example, let your students know that you will record your lesson. If they don't want to be in the video, they could turn the webcam off. Another tip from me is to set up clear housekeeping rules to your students. That is why I always do when I run an online conference or lessons. I often make a poster and share with my students at the beginning of my lesson and tell them what they should do and should not do during the meeting or lesson. Often I ask students, turn off the webcam during the lessons, slightly different from Zhou Lao's recommendation. The reasons are, when the webcam is on, it often reduces the broadband speed. Secondly, students may not want to show the face. And most of all, some students end up to spy what other students' room and check out the classmates' makeup. I bet by now many of you were already studying the painting behind me already, right? So next, staying safe. While learning and teaching online, if you use third-party program, make sure how they store the data. Don't expose your students' names, ID online. Last but not least, IT equipment availability, which I have mentioned before, such as broadband. By now, we have known some useful online platform and have some tips with regard to delivering a lesson online. However, we probably all know that there's no one platform could offer everything. Some are good at one area, some good at the other. In this slide, I would like to share some useful online tools or apps to support differentiation to your online Chinese teaching and learning. Due to time, I could not give more detail to each one. The job for you to do is to explore what they are after today's session. But I would like to point out what you can use those programs and tools for. Here I divide into 5 E's: explain, engagement, explore, elaborate, and evaluate. For example, for the purpose of student engagement, you could try Socrative, Tide, ID Puzzle, and Kahoot. Socrative is an app for fun, effective engagement or on-the-fly assessment. Or you could create like multiple choice, open questions, etc. And the Tide and ID Puzzle are video-based activities. I will again mention it in my next session, but for different learning level, you could run Kahoot exercise in class or online. It will be a very nice choice for hybrid teaching later. So if we have time in the future, we can go through it. But today, I think because time, we can stop here. And the one, I have a list, but one thing I want to say is the list all the additional app or tools which are helpful our designing our lesson, but they are not a magical medicine. You should be clear where teaching structure and nature is, then what kind of tool will you achieve in your learning outcome. We are not short of online digital tools. We should be clear what comes to the first. So at last, there are some tips from me. Exploring online tools offered by your university or school. They might have many functions you know and save you time, using what you're confident with. And talking with your colleagues and seeing what they're doing. At the end of the day, from students, well, language programs should be developed coherently. Consulting with your senior or admin team with regard to the online digital safety. Don't make a simple task complicated. Trying the task before asking students to do so and give them a clear instruction. Think of your workload. Last but not least, again and again, paying attention on digital footprint and online security. So now my time is up. If you have any question related to my session, you could scan the QR and leave your question there. We will be back to you on 25th June in our last training. And my next session is 28th May session. I will focus on designing for online listening oral language teaching. Looking forward you to join in again. So now let's pass the floor to next speaker, Lek Sun. Shai.
No problem.
Shall we call it today and we will arrange another session to deliver my part? We're overrun anyway.
Okay, not a problem. So what we will do, thank you so much to everyone who was able to join the session. Apologies in advance for any technical issues. As you can tell, it's the irony of modern technology. While it's great, there are issues that we sometimes face. So just in advance, the webinar recording will be made available and those details will follow in an email to all the attendees, along with a PowerPoint presentation. So unfortunately, even though Lick wasn't able to deliver her part of the session, it will be made available as part of the PowerPoint as well. So please do check your emails within the next, hopefully 2 weeks. You will be able to see a webinar recording link and also the PowerPoint presentation as well. So we will leave the session there for now. Thank you so much to all the attendees for joining. I know a lot of you have classes and you're really busy, so we really appreciate your participation. And thank you so much to all of our team as well who delivered the sessions as well. So we look forward to your attendance in our upcoming webinar in the next 2 weeks. So for now, stay safe. Thank you so much, and we will speak to you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.